Oh, no, sorry.
Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte Counties Candidate Forum for Senate District 8 and Missouri Representative District 32. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization and does not screen or endorse candidates. We are issue-oriented, and after careful study and when consensus is reached, we lobby for our position at the appropriate level of government. We strive to be informed voters and encourage everyone to do the same. Our membership is open to everyone. We're here for this voter education event to provide an opportunity for you to ask questions and listen as the candidates present their opinions. All candidates were invited to attend this forum tonight. We welcome and appreciate those candidates being with us. The League members bringing you this forum are Elizabeth Darr is our timer and Janelle Shuey, our tech host. We have a guest moderator, Brian Ellison from KCUR. We welcome him and appreciate his participation. The candidates will be answering the question in a random rotating order to timed responses. Okay, well, I think we're now ready for Mr. Ellison to introduce himself and get this forum going. Good evening.
Thank you, Anitra. Good evening to you and good evening to everyone. Welcome to this forum. It's my privilege and pleasure to be part of it and to be moderating today. I'm a host and contributor at KCUR, where at least part of what I do is cover Missouri government politics. So I'm especially glad to be with you. Let me introduce our candidates. As Anitra said, we will invite everyone to answer the same questions. Everyone gives 90-second answers to each question, and I will let you know before I ask the question who will be the first person to speak, just so they have a little bit of warning. But in the end, everyone will get equal number of times to go first or middle or last. And we'll try to keep the candidates together for each of the respective offices. Our candidates tonight, first for Missouri Senate District 8. On the Republican primary, there are 3 candidates, one of whom is here with us tonight. Mr. Joe Nicola, welcome to you. We are not joined tonight by the incumbent, Senator Mike Cierpiot, and another Republican challenger, Rachl Aguirre. On the Democratic side, there is one candidate, and he is with us here tonight, and that is Mr. Antoine Jennings. So welcome to you. For the 32nd District House seat, there is one Republican candidate and one Democratic candidate. So congratulations, they've won their primaries, but it'll be facing off in November. Representative Jeff Coleman, who we are expecting tonight, but is not here with us at this time. We'll bring him in if he arrives. And the Democratic candidate, Janice Brill. Welcome to you, Ms. Brill. All right, so our first question will go first to Mr. Jennings. And it is really a question of introduction. You'll have, again, 90 seconds for each answer. The question is, what do you bring to your candidacy that makes you uniquely qualified for this office? And so, Mr. Jennings, we'll start with you.
Well, first, I want to thank the League for this opportunity and for the invite. It is my pleasure to be here with you all. So my name is Antoine Jennings. I am running for Senate District 8. The reason why I'm running is because I am tired of being tired. I'm tired of politics as usual. I'm tired of having representatives in Jeff City that do not represent the people. My campaign is very centered and focused on accountability, integrity, and leadership. In my profession now, I am the executive director for My Brother's Keeper Network, and serving is what I do. I am a servant leader. I'm a transformational leader. And I look forward to serving the people of the 8th District and consequently the entire state of Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, hey, I want to thank you very much for putting on this forum and for inviting me. Again, my name's Joe Nicola. I'm a pastor. I've pastored for about 32 years now. I'm a U.S. Navy CB veteran, so I took a lifelong oath to protect and defend the United States Constitution. I've been a former small business owner, so I know what it's like to make payroll, pay taxes, deal with regulations. I've also worked for the Blue Springs School District for nearly 17 years. I'm an author. I've written 2 theological books. So I have a wide range of experience. I have ministerial experience. I have business leadership experience. And I too am a servant. For the 32 years I've been a pastor, that's what I do. I serve people and I serve families. I've led international mission trips as well for our ministry purposes and for humanitarian purposes. So what I bring to the table is a wide range of understanding the Constitution. My platform is to preserve and protect everybody's constitutional and God-given and unalienable rights. Our rights are being threatened right now. We're seeing our rights lost, our freedom of speech, all of our freedoms are being attacked and at threat of losing. So thank you.
Thank you. And now our House candidate, Ms. Brill.
Thank you for having me. What motivated me to run for office is a deep fear that we are going to lose our democracy. I am a lifetime certified 7 through 12 a public school teacher, retired. I have taught civics or government or whatever you call it for all of those grades and per course or adjunct classes on the college level. I always told my students that it was un-American for any candidate to run unchallenged. In large part because the person who wins has no way of gauging what his constituents feel about him. Thus, understanding that it was likely that Representative Coleman would run unopposed, I filed for this office. I am retired and probably too old to be doing this, but I care about our democracy, and I agree with Mr. Nicola that our democracy is under fire and endangered, and it needs to be saved by people willing to do the work of representing the actual views of the people they represent. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. All right, the next question will go first to Mr. Nicola. Today, we have seen the tragic shooting of a North Kansas City police officer in the line of duty. We as a nation have endured a series of mass shootings, and many of our cities experience gun violence on a regular basis. What changes, if any, would you make to Missouri gun laws in response to this spate of violent acts committed with guns? Let me start with Mr. Nicola.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. Look, we have a Second Amendment right to bear arms, to be able to have a pistol or gun to protect ourselves. It's not for hunting, but it's really to defend ourselves, our person, our property. And so all gun control laws are not really effective at helping to stop criminal activity. What they do is they really stomp on our Second Amendment rights. So here's the problem. We don't have a gun problem in the United States. We have a cultural problem. We have a mental health crisis. We also have a pharmaceutical crisis. With the pharmaceutical drugs for antidepressant, and there's a numerous amounts of them, the side effects, and every one of these mass shooters have been on some type of pharmaceutical drugs. If you look at the pharmaceutical drug uptake over the last 10, 20 years, so do we have the mass shootings have also risen. So we have to take a serious look at the pharmaceuticals, the mental health crisis issue. We have a lot of gun laws in this country. One of the problems with our gun laws is a lot of them aren't being enforced. So we need to enforce what we have now. We need to protect people's Second Amendment rights so they can have guns and protect themselves. And we really need to look at the mental health and pharmaceutical issue.
Mr. Jennings.
I think Mr. Nicola's answer is just very out of whack, tone deaf, and just quite frankly, it for me, I think it gives people with mental health issues, the burden is on them. Our gun crisis is not due to mental health, and I'm tired of hearing that. The gun problem that we're having is because we have unregulated weapons out there that anybody can get. So when I get to the Senate, I am going to challenge this open carry state. That is not trying to take anyone's Second Amendment rights away from them. It's saying we need better gun control. We need better background checks. That is not stamping on a 17th century archaic amendment that you don't have an inherent right to murder people. And when we have so many people out here with unregulated guns, that opens up the rest of us to violence. So to that, I say we need more gun control. And I'm absolutely thinking of Officer Vasquez's family tonight and keeping him in my prayers.
Thank you. Ms. Brill.
Thank you. The issue of the Second Amendment is not as clear cut as has been presented today. The Second Amendment has 2 clauses, and it was written when it took any number of seconds to reload. One of the distinctions I think we need to make is between guns and weapons of war. We need to talk about controlling weapons of war. Weapons of war should be in the hand of trained soldiers and not turned against American citizens. Those weapons were never imagined by the writers of the Constitution. I would like to see gun safety regulations on guns not weapons of war, and very strict regulations on guns that can tear a body apart in a split second. I also would look to the policemen's union for their advice. They're the ones that have to face endangering of their lives by these weapons every day, as sadly happened today. We have to find a way to be sensible about gun safety regulation, and I will push for that in the House.
Thank you. Next question, we'll go to Ms. Brill first. I'm going to stay with the topic of schools and violence and ask you about promoting school safety. Would you support allowing teachers and staff to carry guns in the classrooms? And whether the answer to that is yes or no, what other steps would you advocate for to promote safety in schools, and how would you pay for it? Let's start with Ms. Brill.
I would absolutely not support teachers having guns in the school. All this does is make every classroom a place where death can reign. That doesn't mean that the teacher would cause a death, but it means that immature people could get their hands on those guns and do great damage. We see it over and over and over again. Uvalde is just the most recent. In terms of school safety, we need to be certain that the school is locked down every minute of the school day, and that anyone coming in is screened by someone official in the school. The The students need to feel safe. Just like a student can't learn if they're hungry, they can't learn if they feel unsafe. But more guns in the classroom wouldn't make any student feel safe. I would like to see better support of the police officers that we have in the schools. They're wonderful people with special training in how to deal with young people. And this kind of thing needs to be funded by tax money because it's our children's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Jennings.
As a former educator myself, my answer is an equivocal no. Teachers are in the classroom to teach. We ask too much of teachers already. Teachers are underpaid. We are understaffed in our schools. Teachers are working well beyond the school day. What more are we going to continue asking from our teachers? Our teachers are absolutely secondary parents to these children. What more are we going to place upon them for the little amount of money that we decide to pay them? My plan is this. I agree with Ms. Brill. Our schools need to be locked down. Everybody needs to be vetted that come in and out of our school buildings. Our doors need to be locked. I'm here in the Blue Springs School District. The Blue Springs School District, they do a pretty good job trying to keep our children safe. So I just wanted, to expand upon that and, and just really compliment our, public safety in our schools, because they do have a hard job, but it's their job to keep our children safe, not our teachers. Our teachers are there to educate.
And Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. As working for the Blue Springs School District, the Blue Springs School District does do a really good job. The buildings are locked down. You have to buzz in. There's a video camera. They see your face before they buzz and open up the door. Every school needs to be like that. We need resource officers in every school. There's already legislation in Missouri for teachers to be able to carry a gun, but it's not forced on them. They can do it if they want. It's up to the school district if they want to allow that. And look, going back to our Second Amendment right, like I said, every gun control law is curtailing law-abiding citizens that want to protect themselves and defend their rights. If you look at all the statistics, nearly 100% of these mass shootings, and typically young men, they're on some kind of pharmaceutical and they have a mental health issue. That's why I say we have to take a serious look at those two issues. So we already have some legislation. We need to protect our schools. And where are all these shootings taking place? They take place at gun-free zones. These shooters know where there's gun-free zones. These people don't have guns. Shopping malls, churches, schools that most people aren't carrying, and that's why they're able to go in there, because they know if we're able to carry a weapon, and I will fight for that, and I'll fight for the Second Amendment right if I'm elected. So thank you.
Next question, we're going to continue to have two that start with the Senate candidates and two that start with our one House candidate. So Ms. Brill, again, this question will go first to you. Last month, the Supreme Court decision in the Dobbs case resulted in the Missouri trigger law taking effect, which meant that abortion immediately became illegal in the state of Missouri, even in cases of rape and incest. Would you change Missouri's abortion laws if you were in the legislature? And if so, how? If you wouldn't, if you think the law is appropriate as it stands, are there other laws you would pass to provide health, education, housing, counseling, childcare services for parents? Start with Ms. Brill.
Thank you. I would do my best to reinstate Roe v. Wade, and only Roe v. Wade. no expansion of the time at which an abortion could be given. First 3 months, the decision of the mother. Second 3 months, decision of the mother with the doctor. Third trimester, no abortion is allowed. That is what I think is the fairest thing to women who, after all, have a right to their bodies, and with the child as the child becomes a child. The laws that we have now are draconian. As a woman in the state of Missouri, you might as well not exist on this issue because you have nothing to say about it. You can't even leave the state to get a legal abortion there. A lot of white men in Jefferson City decided this for us. We are women, and the League of Women Voters knows very well how hard we fought to be 100% citizens, and that has been taken away from us. So I wouldn't expand on Roe v. Wade, but we need to have at least that protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very emotional and very sensitive issue. Now, as a pastor, I have a biblical worldview. Life begins at conception. So life doesn't begin 3 weeks later, 3 months later, it begins right at conception. So anytime we take the life of the baby, that's murder, according to the Bible, and according to that is my opinion as well. What I would do, because we're going to have some lawsuits come to Missouri because of this, and there's going to be a lot of discussion in the next session about this. And I've been out knocking on doors. I've talked to some women. I've talked to some conservative women that are very concerned about this. What I would like to do is to have some of these women come and let's have a discussion. Let's talk, because there is an emergency clause in Missouri for any type of an emergency up to the doctor and to the mother. So if the mother's life is at risk or any other type of emergency, they can still surgically take care of and preserve the life of the mom. So this, I would love to sit down with some other women and look at and talk and see all the different angles, but I am completely pro-life. Life begins at conception. And at any point we take the life of the baby just because it's an inconvenience or birth control is murder. Thank you.
Mr. Jennings.
How pro-life of Mr. Nicola to say that abortion is murder, but yet, the other side supports the death penalty. You want to bring in the Bible, but yet you sanction government murder. How pro-life of you? How pro-life of you to not care about that child after that child is born. You only care about that child up until that child is born. Missouri is lagging behind in this country. We are above the national average in child poverty. We are below the national average in median income. We do not have paid leave for families. We do not care about the life that's here walking. I'm a Christian myself, all right? And the best thing for me is, how can I sit here and talk about a woman's right to her own uterus? I'm a man, I don't have a uterus. So why am I even trying to give an opinion on this? Keep our hands off the woman's uterus. Her body, her choice, that's between her doctor, her partner, and her God. That's my answer.
Thank you. Next question will go first to Mr. Jennings. One of the issues that the state legislature and indeed voters have made decisions about this year, or will be making decisions about, is control of the Kansas City Police Department. It's currently under the jurisdiction of a state-appointed board of police commissioners. Would you support restoring local control or city managed control of the Kansas City Police Department? We'll start with Mr. Jennings.
Absolutely, 100% yes. You cannot have community policing and then tell me that the community in which the police are policing can't control their own police. It's an oxymoron. The governor should stay out of policing in Kansas City. The mayor, the city council should control our police department. If I'm not mistaken, Kansas City is the only city, or maybe one of two cities, that's actually controlled by the state. It's wrong. So I don't want to hear about community policing when you don't feel like the community that they're policing can control their own police department. How is the morale for the police officers? You know, we talk about due process. Well, come on, guys. Let the mayor, let the city council control the police department. No other town in this state is controlled by Jeff City other than Kansas City. So yes, get your hands off of Kansas City Police Department.
Mr. Nicola.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Sure. Would you support returning control of the Kansas City Police Department from a state-appointed Board of Police Commissioners, as it is now, to a locally appointed body?
Absolutely. I think all police departments should be locally controlled. So I would agree with Antoine on that as 100%. But I do want to address something that he said earlier, because he accused me of being for the death penalty, but I've never mentioned the death penalty on the campaign trail. So I'm wondering how he knows that. The second thing he also accused me of is not caring about life after the baby's born. I've never talked about that either, because when I say I'm pro-life, I say I'm pro-life at all stages of life. So I'm not sure what he's talking about and why he's accusing me of those two things and just bringing that in. So going back to the police, absolutely, they need to be locally controlled.
All right, Ms. Brill.
Excuse me, I had a little trouble unmuting. I would be in favor of Kansas City Police being controlled by the local government body. I don't really quite understand what has happened over the few years, because when I learned my politics, Republicans were for the government closest to the people is better. And yet we have a legislature in Jefferson City that controls the police department in Kansas City. They tell school boards whether or not they should have mask mandates. If you believe that the government closest to the people is the best, why are you dictating these things from afar? This is an example of, as I said, my concern about losing our democracy, because we have legislators who don't seem to care what the people on the ground, what I think, and the people I hope to represent think. We vote and initiative petitions for things, and then our representative goes to Jefferson City and votes the exact opposite. We must have local control of everything that we can sensibly control. And certainly Kansas City can control their police department like every other city in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question will go first to Mr. Nicola. One of the most important tasks that the legislature undertakes every single year is approving a state budget. When you are a member of the legislature, what would you like to see receive more funding in the state budget? And what would you like to see receive less? Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, as you know, this past session, our legislature just passed a $47 billion budget. I have not taken the time to go through that. And before I would answer any of those questions, I would have to go through this budget line by line and see where the money's coming from, where is it going, what's it allocated for. So I would have to look at that, before I can answer that 100%.
All right, Mr. Jennings.
So yes, great question. The first thing, I want to see a lot more money going to our education, our public school systems. If these children that we're educating are supposed to be the leaders of the future, then we need to adequately prepare them to lead. So yes, so it would be education for me. As far as taking money away, there's several things that I have in mind that I'm gonna hold close to the vest right now. But I'm absolutely 100% unequivocally in favor of pumping more money into our public school systems, not charter schools, public schools.
All right, Ms. Brill.
Yes, public education would be the top priority for me. Last time I looked, we were 50th, I say again, 50th dead last in teacher pay. We cannot expect to improve our educational system if we do not adequately compensate our teachers. We are at the bottom of a lot of things. I'd like to see us get rid of private prisons. I think a lot of money is wasted there. We're 45th in crimes and corrections. I'd like to see us quit turning down federal money like we did for years and years and years in the expansion of Medicaid. There again, something we voted for as a people, but the representatives do everything they can to undermine. And I'd like to see us get rid of the food tax, the state food tax, as long as that money that goes to the teacher, to the schools, are compensated. I'd like to see us stop having expensive special legislation events. And I think our state legislature is entirely too large and a lot of money is wasted. We are number 3 in the country in the size of our state legislature, 163. We don't need that. We can trim it down and save some money. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a question about spending, although I think Ms. Brill touched on the revenue side of the budget as well. And so I want to give everyone the opportunity to expand on that part. That $47 billion budget that was mentioned was possible this year, in part because of federal funds that came as part of the COVID Recovery Acts. That money won't always be available. How should the state pay for its expenses? What do you think of the current revenues and taxing system, and how would you like to see it change, if at all? I should have mentioned that I'll start with Mr. Jennings this time. So Mr. Jennings.
So what was the last part of that question again?
How would you like to see the state's revenue generating system, the taxes, the money that comes in? Are you satisfied with how that works now, or would you like to see more or less or alternate sources of funding?
So this is a complex issue. First of all, I would really like to see where our lottery dollars are going. They're supposed to go to education, but there's questions of if all of that money really is going to our education system. Taxes, I believe that taxes are just entirely too high here in the state of Missouri. I moved here to Missouri from the state of Tennessee, and it was an absolute shock when I moved here with property taxes, state income tax, and then this new thing that I never heard of called personal property tax. With all of this money coming into the state, what are we doing with it? You know, why are we constantly having horrible roads, in some cities, horrible schools? We're just not equitable in where we spend our money. So I'm gonna cut it off right there. I just want to see us be more equitable and just learn more about where we're spending our money.
Thank you, Mr. Nicola.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is a huge budget, and we are depending on federal dollars for this. which I believe is a huge mistake. Anytime you receive federal money, there's always strings attached. And we need to go line by line on this. Where is the money coming from? Where is it going? Part of this budget, there's a large sum that's going to our public schools. The other two mentioned public school funding, and I'm all for public school funding, but a lot of this budget's going to the public schools too. So we need to really look at, I'm more of a federalist and for states' rights. I think we can do a much better job in the state of Missouri with our taxes. I am definitely for eliminating personal property tax. That was up for a vote twice this last session, and it didn't pass. That's something I would love to see happen. I agree with Antoine. That's a ridiculous tax. That needs to go away. We need to have a balanced budget, and we need to decouple from the federal government as much as possible. And before, until I look at the budget and we go through it, it's I'm not going to be able to answer all these types of questions until I see where this money's coming from, where it's going, and what's really being accomplished with the money that we're spending in all these other departments and areas across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Brill.
Not getting this mute thing at all. Well, I mentioned a couple of ways in which I thought we were unnecessarily spending money. I would like to see a state income tax that is fair, that are very wealthy pay their fair share. I would like to see us aiming our money and our energy at the issues that government is supposed to be doing: roads, bridges, education, healthcare, our prison system. I suspect we could save a great deal of money if we quit contracting out our prison system to, I say this very carefully, a profit-making company. How is it possible that that is cheaper than we running our own system? It's less trouble for the state and its legislature, but it can't possibly be cheaper, and it isn't better. It can't be better. We know it isn't better. There are things that governments do, and they should be allowed the money that to do it well. To say that a large portion of the budget is spent on education is not to say that they are well funded. How much money is going in? How can we be well funding our education when our teachers' pay is 50th? Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will go first to Ms. Brill. Missouri has established a high level of requirements for voter identification, requiring a photo ID of all voters. Missouri has less access to absentee voting and mail-in ballots than many other states. Do you believe elections are sufficiently secure in Missouri? And what would you do to protect the right of all people, including those with less access to photo ID or free time or transportation, to vote? Ms. Brill.
I have volunteered for many years till I got too old to do it as an election judge and then an election supervisor here in Jackson County. And I am totally certain that elections in Jackson County are fairly run. However, the new law, which goes into effect in August, is clearly designed to suppress the vote. If you are registering people to vote after August and you register more than 10 people, when the minute you register that 11th person, now mind you, I'm talking about registering the person to vote, not seeing them go to vote, registering them to vote. When you register that 11th person, you can be jailed, fined, and you lose your right to vote forever. No legislature that could pass a law like that cares anything about every qualified voter voting. What they want is their people voting. When you're old like me, it is effort to get out of your car and walk across the parking lot and into the into the poll. But they don't want to hear from me. They want to make it harder for me to absentee vote. This is an issue that is at the core of the problems we have with democracy in this state. Thank you.
Brian, you're muted.
Thank you. And I'm trying to remember where I am in the order, but I believe Mr.
We lost you for a minute. You're going to have to redo it.
Mr. Jennings.
So thank you for the question. Americans have a constitutional fundamental right to vote. To see our legislature making it harder for people to vote is absolutely abhorrent. I do not agree with our current laws in the state. Not everyone has a driver's license. Not everyone has an ID. Not everyone can get to the poll. I feel like it should be an easy thing to go in and cast your vote. Now, of course, we don't have the election fraud of the lies that we've been hearing about for the last couple of years. It just didn't happen. So I just want to encourage the people to, don't listen to the lies. The fact is that our elections are secure, they're safe, and your vote matters. I don't care what color you are. I don't care about your socioeconomic background. I don't care about what's going on in your bedroom. If you can vote, get out and vote. And the legislature has no right limiting that right to vote.
And Mr. Nicola.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for this question, because this really is a hot topic all across the nation. I'm certainly for election integrity. I believe if we do not have election integrity, we do not have freedom, and we don't have a democracy anymore. That being said, there's extremes on both sides of this issue. I have not heard what Mrs. Brill just said about this new election law and about people going to jail. I'm going to have to look at that. I've read this, but I haven't seen that part. It is very easy, really, in this country now, because you can get them for free, a photo ID. And we need photo ID, especially now we have an open border. We have all kinds of people coming across the border that aren't citizens. We need to have some photo ID. I mean, that's something very basic that we need to have. I also have worked the elections. I've been an e-judge for a number of years. I think our system is really pretty good, but here's really the thing. Anything that's online that is connected to the internet, whether it's air gapped or direct wire, because my cell phone has got an air gap, but I'm connected to the internet. Anything that's connected to the internet, it doesn't matter what it is subject to be hacked. I'm not saying it's hacked, it's subject to be hacked. People need to feel confident in our election system. And that's really the bottom line. People need to feel comfortable, and a lot of people are pretty nervous about it. I'm out of time, sorry.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question before we go to closing statements. And I don't know what you'll think of this question, but I kind of like it. We'll start with Mr. Nicola. The question is, what question do you wish I had asked, but I didn't? And how would you answer it? Mr. Nicola.
What my favorite food is. No, I'm just kidding. There's no question. Whatever you felt like asking, I didn't have any question on my mind or heart. I thought they were all really good questions that you asked, and they need some good answers. So, I'm for freedom. I'm for choice. If we don't have choice, personal choice, we really don't have freedom. And so, we need to have our freedoms are at stake. Our rights are being, taken away from us. So we need to have some good, strong, whatever side of the aisle people are on, we need to have strong constitutionalists because we have the greatest document that the Constitution of any country in the world, because that document limits government. It doesn't limit the people. It puts all the handcuffs on government. And I'm for smaller government, and I'm for we the people to have more freedom. Freedom in our finances, freedom in our life, to pursue what? Pursue life, liberty, and happiness. So maybe even some more constitutional questions or something like that would have been fine. But I thought, the questions were great. I appreciate the questions. Thank you very much for hosting this and for asking them. I appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Mr. Jennings.
So Joe is for the right to have less government and get government out of your business, but he wants to, he agrees with mandating a woman's uterus, but that's beside the point. The point is that Missouri is 4th in gun deaths in this country. We're 40th in life expectancy, like I said earlier. We are above the national average in child poverty. We are below the national average of median income. This cannot be okay with the people of Missouri. We're 50th in teacher pay. We're 48th in overall education. So I would have liked to focus more on what we can do better as a state. What we can do better and how I would answer that is, yeah, I actually agree with Joe on certain things. We should let the people have more control over our government. Take government completely out of a woman's right to choose. We can't have it both ways, okay? So once we believe in this Constitution that we speak of, for the people, by the people, and of the people, then I'll start believing that the other side cares enough about the people.
Thank you. And Ms. Brill.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to take a moment. Mr. Nicola, as a person who is an e-judge, has attended training, and he knows very well that no portion of the election system in the state is ever connected to the internet, ever connected to the internet. So we cannot use that as an excuse to try to limit people's right to vote. As far as the question I wish you asked, I was for 11 years in South Central Missouri, a beef farmer. Our family farms have lost all the protections that they used to have to protect them from corporate farm. And all of that went away because of the state legislature. And now those family farms, which are the heart of any strong economy, have no protection and are being decimated by the huge resources of corporate agriculture. Those big companies control the vast majority of our meat, the vast majority of our grain. And we recently saw what happened when there are only a few companies who do something. Suddenly they can't do it, and sick babies can't get their formula. Who solved that problem? Not the companies. It was the president who flew in formula for those babies. I would have liked to have been able to answer that.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to the closing statements from the three candidates, with Ms. Brill, and then Mr. Jennings, and then Mr. Nicola. Each of you will have 2 minutes. I will offer just one final word to those watching, whether they're watching the recording of this or they're watching it live, that the primary election is 2 weeks from today. And in the case of Mr. Jennings, who is the lone Democratic candidate in Missouri Senate District 8, and Ms. Brill, who is the lone Democratic candidate in the 32nd District, they seem likely to win their primaries, but they will, of course, be on the November general election ballot. Mr. Nicola will be facing Senator Cierpiot and Ms. Aguirre on the August 2nd ballot. And then the winner of the primary, of course, will face Mr. Jennings in November. Let's have our closing statements. First, Janice Brill, candidate for the 32nd House District.
Thank you. I'll go back to what I said when I talked about what I brought to this office should I be elected. I am deeply concerned that we are losing our democracy. We have a legislature that has a supermajority, so the minority isn't considered at all. We have a legislature that's attempting to undermine our ability to legislate ourselves as the people. Lots of pieces of legislation are being considered that make it more difficult for us to get something on the ballot by increasing the number of signatures you need and requiring to be qualified in all the districts. This is not in the spirit of democracy. The spirit of democracy is the people speak and the representatives, when they are clear what the people want, do as they are told. That's what a referendum is. Why are we having to have all these referendums on our ballot? Because our legislature won't do what we want them to do. Do you remember quite a few years ago when 3 out of every 4 Missourians voted to regulate puppy mills? Do you know what happened to that? We are now 50th in regulation of puppy mills. Puppy mills. Why do they care about puppy mills? They care about puppy mills because the puppy mill industry infuses money into their campaigns. I am raising no money, none, zero, and I will be beholden to no one because I want to go to Jefferson City and represent the people, which after all is what the Constitution says we are supposed to do. So I thank you very much for the time, and I hope you'll consider voting for me in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Antoine Jennings, Democratic candidate for Missouri Senate District 8.
Well, first, I want to thank the league for hosting this forum. Brian, thank you for moderating. It's nice to see you, Ms. Brill, and Joe, thank you for being here and the dialogue that we've had tonight. So I'm going to talk to you, the voter. I'm not going to give a closing statement. I want to give you reasons why I think it's time for a change. Far too long, we've had people in Jeff City from Senate District 8, from House District 31, 32, from heck, our entire legislature. That's just not representing the people. If we believe in this Constitution that we hold so dear to our hearts, our representatives need to actually represent us. What a novel thought, right? They're not representing us. They're beholden to big money, corporate PACs. They're beholden to their special interests. This campaign that I'm running is for the people and by the people, and it's powered by the people, not corporate PACs. So I'm asking you, the voter, consider something different. Don't look at the little D or the R next to someone's name. Look at the heart of the person and look at what we're going to bring to better your life, to better our own lives here in this state. So if we want to see a change, then we have to be the change. That's why I'm running to be your senator, so I can represent you, the people. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Joe Nicola, Republican candidate for Missouri Senate District 8.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for hosting this. Thank you to the League of Women's Voters for putting on this forum and for inviting me. Really appreciate it. Appreciated the other candidates. Thank you so much for what you bring to the table as well. Look, we have 34 state senators in Missouri. 24 of them are Republican, but only 7, and on a good day, 8 vote like Republicans. I would agree with Anton. We need change because we have people that are beholden to the leadership of the Senate. We have them beholden to lobbyists and special interests. And so we definitely need a change. We have 10% more Republican legislators in Missouri than the state of Florida, but we're not able to pass the type of Republican legislation that Florida is able to pass. Why is that? Because the majority of Republicans are aligning themselves with the Democratic Party and voting with the Democratic Party. That's why I'm running. I didn't pay attention to local politics or state politics the majority of my life. I paid attention to Washington, D.C. But when we had these mandates come down and we had these health mandates and we were told to close churches and businesses, I refused. I did not close our church. I stayed open because I have a First Amendment right, the right of a freedom of religion and the right to assemble. What I did is what I believe all government should do. And that is you tell the people the facts, which would be a novel idea for government to tell people the truth, give them recommendations, and then let people make their own decisions. I didn't force anybody to come to the congregation during that time. I live streamed. So we need people that are strong, that will stand up, have a backbone, and fight for our freedom. So I ask you, the voter, consider me, and I ask for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My thanks to all of the 3 candidates who participated in tonight's forum. My thanks to the League of Women Voters as well for the invitation to serve as moderator tonight. And my thanks to all of you, whether live or afterward, who are watching this forum and seeking to be as informed of voters as you can be. Don't forget, the election is Tuesday, August 2nd, the primary, and then of course the general election in November. Thanks so much for participating. Do have a good night.